With another round of peace talks on the horizon, what's going on with Cyprus and why haven't we heard any good news? I'm Courtney Yusuf, this is Novara Media, and I'll do my best to explain in this short video. Tucked away in the eastern Mediterranean, the island of Cyprus is home to approximately 1 million people and one of the world's 3 UN-controlled borders. Nominally, the whole island is part of the Republic of Cyprus, an EU member state run largely by the Greek Cypriot community, whereas the northern third of the island is home to the self-proclaimed Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, a state run by the Turkish Cypriots, recognised only by Turkey, and which many in the international community consider to be simply a Turkish occupation. The north is crippled economically by an international trade embargo and remains largely under the thumb of Erdogan's Turkey. The south, whilst faring better, still suffers from the division and militarisation of the island. Greeks have lived on Cyprus for nearly 4,000 years, and over that time the island has seen a whole host of imperial rulers. In the 1570s, it was the Ottoman Turks that took over, prompting waves of Turkish migration to the island. By the time of Britain's de facto control in the 1870s, Turkish Cypriots amounted to approximately 1/5 of the island's population. Greek and Turkish Cypriots lived together for hundreds of years, developing shared dialects, customs and communities. But the wave of nationalism that gripped the world in the early 20th century hit the eastern Mediterranean too, spawning 2 movements: Enosis, that called for the unification of Cyprus with Greece, and Taksim, that called for the creation of an independent Turkish Cypriot state. Violence between the 2 communities and towards the British colonial government began to rise rapidly in the 1950s, prompting the creation of the Independent Republic of Cyprus in 1960. The constitution included a form of intercommunal power sharing, and an arrangement was made positioning Greece, Turkey and the UK as guarantors, powers responsible for maintaining Cyprus as democratic, bicommunal and independent. However, the stalling new Republican government fell prey to hostile nationalists, leading to another marked rise of violence in 1963. Atrocities were committed on both sides, and the Turkish Cypriots eventually pulled out of the government, with many moving into communal enclaves. Tension finally erupted in 1974. The military dictatorship in Greece led an attempted coup in Cyprus with the objective of Enosis, union with Greece, and this prompted the invasion of Turkish troops. Turkey said that they were only acting on the basis of their position as a guarantor power, but Greece called this an unashamed power grab. With the northern third of the island captured, Cyprus witnessed a population exchange of 150,000 Greek Cypriots and 50,000 Turkish. 9 years later, in 1983, the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus was declared, and for the UN, having been on the island since the 1960s, Cyprus is now by far one of their oldest missions. Now, over the decades, tensions have fallen, and a major breakthrough arrived in 2003 when it became possible for both communities to cross the UN-controlled border, the Green Line. With Cyprus set to join the EU in 2004, many were keen to see the island join the bloc united, and so there was a great rush to push through the Annan Plan, which would have seen the establishment of a sovereign federal state. However, in 2004, while the Turkish Cypriots approved of it, the Greek Cypriots rejected it, claiming that it gave the North too many concessions. 10 years of open borders later, and the elections of Mustafa Akinci and Nikos Anastasiades has created a new momentum behind the peace talks. Moreover, the discovery of a major gas field off the coast of the island has brought many interested parties behind the idea of Cyprus as a unified and lucrative energy hub. So what are the major sticking points between the 2 states? What happened to the properties abandoned by refugees and displaced persons in 1974? Are those people still entitled to them, or should they be compensated in some way? How will the security of the different communities be maintained within the new state? Will we see a demilitarisation of the island, and will we maintain the role of guarantor powers? In what ways will the borders of the 2 new federal regions be redrawn to reflect the current demographics of the island? And how will the new system of government represent and work for all the different communities, and will we see a rotating presidency? Having already met in Geneva in January this year, the 2 leaders are set to meet there again in March, along with the guarantor powers. If all goes to well, and the leaders agree to the central points of contention, then a final decision of a single republic of 2 federal states will be put to an island-wide referendum. And yet sadly, the last round of talks did not end with any tangible results, and tensions have been rising since their conclusion, with many bilateral negotiations actually breaking down. On the 10th of February, Greek Cypriot lawmakers voted to ensure that a 1950 Greek Cypriot referendum in favour of Enosis is honoured in schools. Now, the North wants this act rescinded, as counter to the spirit of the talks, with many of them seeing Enosis as the origin of the island's problems. And whilst Anastasiades' Democratic Rally Party did abstain from the vote, he's been accused of letting the bill pass and moving to the right out of consideration for his own re-election attempts in a year's time. However, the Greek Cypriots have also accused the North of stalling, of using this no-deal bill as a means of delaying the talks in order to assist Erdogan's constitutional referendum coming up in April, which would award him far greater presidential powers, as Erdogan is currently trying to court the support of Turkish nationalists who would not want to lose any control in Cyprus. For the Cypriots themselves, Erdogan's unpredictability is generating a lot of anxiety, and when coupled with economically crippled Greece, many islanders are really now looking to reassert their sovereignty and finally rid themselves of foreign powers. In a world seemingly retreating into tribalism, will 2017 finally see a united Cyprus?